Cyrus Amaranth had fought in the shattering of Ilium. He had fallen during the nightfall of the long dusk on Venus, and in Mercury during the Day of Woes. He had led the starfall above Earth's skies during the Liberation and later defended the homeworld. He was the first to breach Luna during the breaking of the moon, and he had been there when the Allied spheres shattered the Hierophant's court over Pluto, unleashing enough atomics to fracture their sun in half. Yet nothing had prepared him for this. The planet before him shimmered like a perfectly blown glass from the Venusian markets, its azure hues blending in a dozen shades from equator to pole. Karsus, slightly smaller than Earth but densely populated, was renowned for its beauty and mystique, a forbidden gem tempting all who thirsted for discovery. But now, beauty meant nothing. Between his fleet and that planet, millions perished amid the wreckage of starships and colossal living space behemoths. On the bridge, crews desperately deciphered IFF signals, distinguishing between Xelax vessels, Confederate ships, and the Felician Defense Fleet. Even from thousands of kilometers away, the void crackled with weapon discharges, and auger stations struggled amid the debris of space stations, minefields, and gutted ships. The knights aboard needed no sensors or cameras to understand the chaos unfolding in the vast expanse. Death, on an unimaginable scale. Cyrus's armored gauntlet tightened on the railing of the bridge's middle level, his gaze fixed ahead with a jaw set like that of a European storm dragon ready to strike, the metal fingers leaving dents in the sturdy railing. Even at this distance, he could sense the grim reality of thousands of lives flickering out every minute as the Confederation fleet was systematically decimated. The crew maintained their composure, masking the discomfort surely felt through their mantle interfaces. In the unforgiving void of space, they were accustomed to sudden losses, whether from a well-placed shot or a catastrophic reactor failure. Amidst the chaos, the soul core of the Lady Morningstar shielded them from the worst psychic impacts. Cyrus felt the gentle, numbing sensation spread over his senses and anima, easing the prickling on his soul caused by the overwhelming death around them. It was a rare moment of relief, made possible by the psionically augmented intelligence PAI they had aboard. "This makes Pluto look like a leisurely Venusian solar race," Cass whispered close to his ear, voicing what they both knew. The void was a battleground of thousands of ships, some maintaining disciplined firing lines, others locked in brutal, point-blank gunnery duels reminiscent of drunken brawls. A few Xelax vessels even attempted ramming and boarding actions. The Felicians had chosen their ground well. Positioned at the north pole of Karsus, their fleet held a strategic advantage, intercepting any threats with ease, and within optimal support range of their orbital defenses. Any enemy daring to breach this line faced a costly battle of attrition, a test of blood and metal few admirals, let alone sailors, could endure. Yet the Xelax had disregarded these advantages with disdain. They plowed through the Felician defenses, catching the Confederate fleet outside the orbital ring in a devastating position. Their sheer numbers and tonnage absorbed the punishment with brute force, bypassing the need for intricate tactics or deception. The commander who had led the initial Confederate strategy was an utter incompetent, attempting to leverage their perimeter and lure the Xelax into range of the defenses, only to falter in executing the retreat and getting caught off guard. In stark contrast, the Felician commander, though ruthless, was effective. Ordering all defense stations to unleash unrestrained fire, they used the Confederate fleet as a living shield to pummel the Xelax at optimal range without resistance. This savage tactic inflicted significant damage on both the Xelax biovessels, particularly the larger categories, and the Confederation fleet caught in the crossfire. "The damn kittens took down a few big ones," Thana remarked from her perch above the bridge, her presence heightened by her blood-soaked feathered cape and intimidating stature. The augur officers, visibly affected, bore expressions of awe mixed with fear at her formidable demeanor. "They put up a good fight, but those bastards are still hanging on." "They fired on our own Confederate ships," Idik murmured, his chitinous jaws clicking with tension as his carapace shifted to a glacial blue hue, signaling his agitation. Even without seeing him, Cyrus sensed the tumult of shock, anger, disgust, and helplessness echoing through the mantle. "Why?" "Because the Xelax didn't anticipate it," Cyrus replied, his eyes absorbing the tactical data before him. The sheer number of ships dwarfed even the entire Third Solar War combined. The estimated casualties, when cross-referencing confirmed losses with Confederate records, exceeded those of most of the first year of the Solar War alone. They were attempting to board and harvest biological materials from those vessels, likely filled with troops and positioned close to enemy carriers or transports. Easy prey for planetary-scale weaponry, especially against a competent and prepared fleet. "It's barbaric," the Valdori field marshal muttered, his voice tinged with unease. "And treacherous. The real treachery lies in whoever appointed such an amateurish commander to lead your fleet, my friend," Gavilan remarked, his tone cavalier considering the staggering death toll, though inwardly harboring thoughts of executing the fool responsible for placing the fleet in such jeopardy. They tried to bait those abominations into range and failed miserably, a feeble attempt at retaliation, if I may say so. "The Zilaks have breached the first ring of Philesian defenses," Cassandani interjected, her emerald eyes scanning the same data as her husband. "Care to wager they're targeting their satellite? Augur, give me a scan of that world's moon." "It's a Class C satellite, Dictator, twice the radius of Phobos," one of the Augur officers reported, her expression grim as she mentally navigated her instruments through the labyrinth of derelict superstructures and drifting corpses. "I'm struggling with interference from weapon residue and engine emissions, but I can confirm it's shielded with plasma and hosts enough generators to power a fleet." "That's Zenus, Katarsis' only moon," Yudiki explained, addressing the crew as much as the officer who had already received his briefing in transit. "The Philesians have turned it into a fortified orbital station with multiple levels of bunkers, supply tunnels, orbital batteries, and hangars. It's equipped with a massive shield generator array to defend against orbital assaults, a perfect choke point for any fleet attempting to breach their capital world." "I suppose it's also their command center for the defense?" Cassandane speculated, her crimson mane pulled back as she expertly braided it in the traditional Peloponnesian style favored by Martians, her hands deftly checking her husband's armor. Cyrus allowed her the ritual. Ever since the decompression incident over Phobos, she had become meticulous about ensuring his safety. He sent a gentle psionic wave of comfort and amusement her way, chuckling softly in their shared mental space. "It's the most logical assumption," Yudeke conceded. "So the Zilaks will likely target whoever is inside that fortress moon," Gavilan remarked, with a predatory smile that hinted at his eagerness for battle. "How skilled are these Philesians in close-quarters combat?" "The best," Yudiki replied neutrally, though the undercurrent of anger was palpable to anyone on the bridge familiar with the field marshal. The reasons for his resentment remained elusive, at least until we encountered you. "Boss, we could drop in on those bastards," Thana chimed in, now hanging upside down from the upper bridge deck. Her disheveled dark hair cascaded downward, giving her the appearance of some malevolent bat demon from ancient lore. "Hit them head on. We have the knights and infantry to choke them on that little metal moon they're so eager to seize, and my crew is itching for some new trophies." "Too slow," Balin's commanding voice resonated across the bridge. The Ionian spoke sparingly, but his words carried weight. "We must end this swiftly. If they adapt, we lose our advantage." "Balin is right, Nokoribi," Himiko added calmly from her position, cross-legged on a meditation couch, a serene contrast to her husband's directness. "Our mission isn't prolonged surface warfare. We're an assault force, designed to breach and evacuate survivors, strike and withdraw. That's why we brought so many Mercurian vessels. It's their specialty." Her assessment was spot on. Mercurian Mejdays, akin to the solar nights before the Accords of Sol, embodied this strategy perfectly. Silent specters striking swiftly and disappearing just as quickly, the Medjay epitomized Mercury's war doctrine. Hit without being seen, continue hitting until the enemy can't respond. Mercury wasn't called the sphere of the all-devouring sands solely for its deserts. Facing a Medjay in a sandstorm was a fate few survived. Even the Hierophant's legions had learned that lesson the hard way. Yet, as he surveyed the void and calculated their options, a sinking feeling gnawed at him. The Zilaks had adapted to every tactic the Confederation had thrown at them. Initially dismissed as minor skirmishes on the outer rim, these encounters had gradually escalated, unnoticed by Corps Command until it was too late. Like poking a bear from the shadows, the Zilax had probed and tested until they found weaknesses, infiltrating deeply while the Confederation's attention was diverted. Planets had fallen, despite 10 years of brutal attrition warfare by Outer Rim fleets and army groups, pushing them back time and again. Because after each engagement, the Zilax adapted. Their weapons improved, their ships and armor became more advanced, and their tactics evolved. They fine-tuned their weaponry to exploit vulnerabilities, waged psychological warfare against every race they encountered, and efficiently repurposed biological advantages from their foes. Once the Zilax gained momentum, they seemed nearly unstoppable, a fact painfully clear to the Confederation's military command and to the Archduke of Europa weeks earlier. Cyrus knew he couldn't win an attrition war against such adversaries. How long until psi weapons lost their effectiveness? How soon before the Zilax developed countermeasures to Confederation rail guns and pulsar technology? He couldn't afford to give them time to catch up. The Zilax were formidable because they had faced few serious threats in over a millennium. Unlike the Confederation, which had outlawed many of the weapons that had once been standard in the Sol system. Humanity had enjoyed 5 years of peace, but how long would their edge last? How soon would his armadas, orders, and legions become mere sharpening stones for the Zilax threat, honing their teeth until they were ready to strike at all life in the galaxy? The answer was clear. You break their teeth and shatter their jaws. Dragons don't retreat from vermin, they incinerate them to ashes. And if Thana had her way, she'd dance on those ashes. There was no need to adapt if you annihilated the enemy, all of them. "I have no intention of evacuating anyone or anything," declared the Dragon of Europa, his voice resolute as he flexed his neck. "Cyrus, my lord?" Gavilan's gaze was as cautious as if he were observing a wild specimen of his family sigil, the Ganymedan jungle lion. "Has he gone primal on us?" Gavilan glanced at his own wife for confirmation. Thana shrugged, though the glint in her eyes betrayed her anticipation for battle. Cassandane circled her husband, emerald eyes locking with amber in a crackle of psionic energy. She scanned him, her crimson armor amplifying her features. "You intend to repel the Zilax here," she stated, more an observation than a question. "But we lack the fleet strength. But, as our resident she-devil has noted, we have the knights, my love," Cyrus replied, turning his attention back to the tactical displays. "And the element of surprise," he gestured towards the holographic screens. "We'll use the Philesian defenses as the anvil, and we'll be the hammer. We strike from behind with full force, push them forward, and drive them into the orbital defense net to trap them. We'll still face significant friendly fire," Gavilan pondered aloud. "And considering the Philesians' tolerance for casualties, it's not an ideal scenario." "Then we coordinate closely with them," the Archduke of Europa declared, rising to his feet. "They use the Confederate fleet out of necessity to defend their world. We need them to believe we can save it if they assist us. Chic sunt draconis!" The bridge of the Lady Morningstar quaked as the Navy elements roared their affirmation, pounding their fists over their hearts in solidarity. "Hissi sunt draconis!" echoed the infantry and armored units from their quarters, barracks, engineering bays, and vehicles. The thunderous clamor reverberated through the war striders as they stomped in unison within their loading bays, heavy armor engines revving in synchronized defiance. "Haec sunt draconis!" The resounding cry filled the bridge, joined by every knight across the fleet. If the sound alone was impressive, the surge of unity feedback was cathartic, an amalgamation of cool determination, icy fury, blazing wrath, eager anticipation, and unyielding willpower that swept away all doubts, fears, and hesitations in the hearts of those who heard it. Crimson Gold Armada, breakers of tyrants, demon slayers of old, named in honor of the fleet under whose might the sun never set, who overcame storms and tempests to defend home, the great and cherished one. Stand to your stations and uphold your oaths, Sol Invicta, Deus Misericordies. Cyrus terminated the channel and focused ahead, rising from his command throne to reign in his own psionic high from the fervor of his troops. Cooler minds prevailed in war. "Prognosticars, do we have a seer window?" The fleet's specialized psychics, the prognosticars deep within the ship's chambers, responded amidst their focused concentration. Seer window confirmed, Archduke. Trust level at 68%. Too much interference for higher accuracy. 68% was less than ideal, but a skilled commander didn't build victories on good odds, but on overcoming dire ones. Then we adapt! Cyrus clasped his hands behind his back, relishing the moment of command. Back once more to extinguishing the darkness, as on Mars, Pluto, and Earth. He hoped the abominations of this galaxy received the message loud and clear. All vessels engage at will. With the familiarity of battle, Cyrus plunged into the ebb and flow of the mantle, and the dragon awakened. The expanse ahead burns with azure inferno. The entire Crimson Gold Armada, more than 10 million strong and seasoned from the Solar War, undefeated since the retreat over Rhea, unleashes its wrath under my command. Thousands of kilograms of tungsten rounds, propelled at near-light speeds and resonating with the soul core energies of the crew, surge forth in a lethal storm. It is the embodied fury of the dragon. It takes 3 minutes for the Zelax sensors to detect our onslaught, a mere whisper amidst the swirling debris. Another 3 minutes for them to feel its impact. But time is inconsequential. Guided by prognosticer foresight, our gunnery crews unleash successive volleys, using seer windows to predict enemy maneuvers and adjust trajectories. For the 15 minutes it takes to close the distance to haymaker range, our fleet maintains relentless fire. Nearly every shot finds its mark, or compels enemy evasions that expose vulnerabilities to subsequent salvos. Dodging such a relentless onslaught is futile when each shot predicts their movements. The initial barrage focuses on Hydra munitions, detonating kilometers from the Zelax fleet and releasing millions of tungsten darts. Most batter against shields, while others pierce through lighter vessels like fighters and corvettes, their defenses overwhelmed. The darts also target stealth ships, marking them for auger nets to reveal their hidden positions. Additionally, they scatter clouds of magnetically and psionically charged debris, wreaking havoc on close-range sensors and sowing chaos among the enemy ranks. It is a symphony of annihilation, orchestrated by the united might of the Armada, a prelude to the decisive clash awaiting us at the heart of the battle. The Zelax, caught unawares by the relentless assault, are blindsided by the next volley, this time Damocles-class kinetic killers, meticulously crafted to pierce through the armor and shields of even their largest vessels. Their ignorance of the impending attack proves fatal. The barrage of lethal projectiles, honed by the insights gained from our initial strikes, is precise and devastating. Our firepower overwhelms their defenses, tearing through shields with the force capable of cleaving cities. Slug after slug concentrates on overloading their protections and penetrating deep into their armored hulls. Despite their resilience, the Zelax biovessels are no match for the sustained onslaught. My naval officers monitor feeds from enemy vessels, capturing images of their efforts to repair regenerating wounds and plug breaches to prevent the venting of vital atmosphere. These creatures, grotesque and predatory like the colossal fauna of Europa's seas, embody ruthless survival instincts, augmented by their collective cunning and group-minded strategies. They are predators, akin to sharks in the dark abyss between stars, remorselessly consuming all in their path, heedless of the repercussions. Yet, here we stand, confronting the motherfucking consequences. On my personal implants, ruby-red numbers begin counting down. I maintain focus, keeping these critical metrics under control. The Jovian contingent of our fleet divides into 2 formations, veering away from the ecliptic plane in opposite directions. These squadrons encircle the enemy fleet from above and below, maintaining a relentless barrage. Railgun batteries fire long-range torpedoes, missiles, and advanced ordnance refined over 5 years of peacetime development. The Damsel of Midnight strikes first blood, its plasma torpedoes finding the exposed underbelly of a Zelax heavy cruiser, rupturing its innards into the void of space. A devastating salvo from its ventral and spinal batteries slices the cruiser nearly in half, ensuring its destruction. The battle intensifies, our forces pressing the assault with unwavering determination, each ship a testament to Saul's indomitable spirit and the resolve of the Crimson Gold Armada. The Zelax, caught unawares by the relentless assault, are blindsided by the next volley. This time, Damocles-class kinetic killers, meticulously crafted to pierce through the armor and shields of even their largest vessels. Their ignorance of the impending attack proves fatal. The barrage of lethal projectiles, honed by the insights gained from our initial strikes, is precise and devastating. Our firepower overwhelms their defenses, tearing through shields with the force capable of cleaving cities. Slug after slug concentrates on overloading their protections and penetrating deep into their armored hulls. Despite their resilience, the Zelax biovessels are no match for the sustained onslaught. My naval officers monitor feeds from enemy vessels, capturing images of their efforts to repair regenerating wounds and plug breaches to prevent the venting of vital atmosphere. These creatures, grotesque and predatory like the colossal fauna of Europa's seas, embody ruthless survival instincts, augmented by their collective cunning and group-minded strategies. They are predators, akin to sharks in the dark abyss between stars, remorselessly consuming all in their path, heedless of the repercussions. Yet here we stand, confronting the motherfucking consequences. On my personal implants, ruby-red numbers begin counting down. I maintain focus, keeping these critical metrics under control. The Jovian contingent of our fleet divides into two formations, veering away from the ecliptic plane in opposite directions. These squadrons encircle the enemy fleet from above and below, maintaining a relentless barrage. Railgun batteries fire long-range torpedoes, missiles, and advanced ordnance, refined over 5 years of peacetime development. The Damsel of Midnight strikes first blood, its plasma torpedoes finding the exposed underbelly of a Zelax heavy cruiser, rupturing its innards into the void of space. A devastating salvo from its ventral and spinal batteries slices the cruiser nearly in half, ensuring its destruction. Casandane's grip on my shoulder is fierce, a feral smile adorning her face. She thrives in this environment, her mind sharp and analytical, dissecting enemy strategies with the precision of a surgeon wielding a scalpel. Unlike me, who wields the sword in battle, she navigates the political and strategic landscapes with equal prowess. Leading her Martian contingent, she relishes the challenge, enjoying the spectacle of seeing me command in my element. It's a mutual admiration that runs deep between us. The Zelax respond to our onslaught. Balan grunts, immediately coordinating defensive measures and redirecting energy from generators to bolster our shield integrity against the incoming fire. Himiko shadows him, ensuring our sensors remain clear and vigilant, guarding our vulnerable flanks from any surprises. Their communication is unspoken but efficient, a testament to their years of experience and the seamless operation of our massive vessel beneath us, primed to unleash firepower capable of overwhelming any adversary. The countdown continues its inexorable descent, a crucial part of our strategy. I observe as catalytic destroyers and plasma batteries unleash their retaliatory fire. Though slower than our volleys, their strikes pack immense destructive power. We refuse to remain stationary, our shields flaring to life under the barrage of enemy fire. Our escort ships dart forward, intercepting incoming ordnance with precision. Defense squadrons and Oni-class drones hurl themselves into harm's way, sacrificing themselves to neutralize the incoming threats, explosions bursting harmlessly in the void. Flak fills the view screens as the point defense systems of the Lady Morningstar spew death. Some bio-torpedoes still get through, despite the overlapping fields of fire and interceptors wreaking havoc among the incoming ordnance. One after another, the living projectiles are swatted from the void, but they keep coming. Each passing second, the volume of fire increases as we close in. Shields flare with blue flashes of plasma, mostly holding. My flagship has endured far worse punishment. Others are not so fortunate. Escorts perish when they fail to pull away in time. A frigate, clipped by fragmenting munitions, slams into the shield of a much more powerful dreadnought. A destroyer takes concentrated fire from 6 torpedoes. The Light in the Dark scores 2 more beam strikes with its heavy prow lance batteries before 3 bio-torpedoes bypass its escort vessels and rip its bowels open to the cold void with sickly green detonations, acid eating away at the armor faster than any other substance I've ever seen. The countdown on my personal display continues to tick down as some of my ships splash yellow, red, and even black. Casualty estimates skyrocket when concentrated fire manages to bisect one of my battleships. It's the Apocrypha. That old Martian behemoth refuses to die, still firing despite being vivisected as frigates pick up the non-essential crew. It's devoid of Martian knights today. Its role in the battle is nearly over, having borne the brunt of so many enemy squadrons that it's a miracle it got this close. I feel the deaths as fire, acid, decompression, and the icy void claim them in fistfuls of bright lives, extinguished in seconds. I feel their pain, anguish, and fear, and do my best to drown their last moments in the unity of the fleet, to make them understand they are not dying alone. It's poor comfort for dying men, but it's all I can offer. The sudden ripping of the connection hurts, but the blows land on raised mental defenses. The deaths wash over my psyche, barely affecting my concentration. The only tangible effect is new fuel for my fury. Morning would come later. Victory comes first. The timely deliverance avenges them with a barrage from its spinal batteries, followed by 2 ship killers, Alpha Bravo atomics. The offending ship dies screeching into the uncaring void, its merciless gods indifferent to its fate. The countdown reaches 0. The view screen darkens. Flashes dawn in the void, newborn suns joining the twin stars of the system, man-made and wrathful as a scorned goddess. 12 Omega-level atomic warheads from my entire fleet slip past their defenses, detonating into pupils of light and sundering death, using the railgun trails and scrambled sensors from our first volley to hide their signatures. That and the Zelax have never been hit by atomics in space. I made my entire senior staff check, thrice. Adapt to that, you bastards. Entire enemy squadrons die to the same ammunition we used to destroy Pluto. They are the only 12 my fleet had, so I made sure to make them count. The newly established sanatorium forbade me from taking more than those 12 planet glassers out of Sol. The 30-megaton atomic warheads were terrifying enough that I understood and approved of their limitation, but they never gave me limits on the Alpha Bravo atomic ordnance of 3-megaton yield I could take. When I took command of the Armada, I made sure to stock up on naval ordnance. The void fills with them now, thrown at 3 different angles at the enemy fleet, still preoccupied with the kinetic slugs wreaking havoc on their lines. A catalytic beam from an enemy Leviathan scythes through the void, striking our frontal starboard shield, forcing me to look away from the brutal flash of colliding energies. The Lady Morningstar's soul core bellows furiously at the attempt on our lives and feeds the gunnery crew's new targeting data. I see the frontal rail batteries adjust their angle and fire a steady staccato of ammunition that singes the void between us. I subconsciously check what they have fired in retaliation. A smile dawns on my face. The 3 frontal hexa-barreled batteries spew forth 18 Icarus Infernum shells, which detonate into brutal thermobaric fusions of emerald light, creating balls of fire in the void that devour the biological Zelax ship. The lack of oxygen matters not. As long as the silverite tetraphosphorus solution has something to burn, those sickly green flames won't die. The Martian segment of the fleet ignites full thrusters to close the range to their preferred tactic, while the Mercurians simply vanish from sensors, fighting this war as they like it, unseen and unexpected. Martians, on the other hand, prefer it close and personal, in the void, on the ground, in politics, and in bed, and I can attest to each one of them. Just as the rearguard of the Zelax fleet manages to turn their Leviathan-sized ships toward us and form ranks to meet us gun to gun, they fail to spot the squadrons I sent forth under the cover of the Hydra munitions and the constant fire of my ships. My hunters in the void, mostly Venusian and some elite Jovian pilots, dive from below and above the enemy fleet into the gaps they formed to better coordinate defense against our ordnance and the gaping holes my 30-megaton nukes inflicted. As my ships stop their barrage, the Zelax have 3 seconds to wonder why we have stopped firing before the first hunter-killer missile impacts an enemy ship. 1,000 more follow, and a behemoth goes up in detonations. Then, my wolf packs of corvettes and wings of fighters are among them, killing anything their guns allow them to. The enemy's dwindled squadrons engage mine in neck-breaking dogfights among their ships, hunting, killing, and saving each other. Then my Mercurian ships materialize back into reality with short-range missile salvos and heavy railgun fire, and then they are gone again. Here begins their dance of the summer breeze. I almost pity the Zelax. To fight the children of the desert world is to die of 1,000 unseen cuts. Against the entire enemy fleet, we would have been encircled and butchered. But whatever Eudike told the Philesians has worked because the defense fleet sails forth to pin the Zelax vanguard between their ships and the defense guns. I read on transit that Zenus is the name the Philesians give to their spirit of death. It's an appropriate name. The satellite fires thousands upon thousands of weapon batteries, more a space station than a satellite, directly at the incoming fleet, disgorging squadrons of fighters and corvettes and using its docks to take in damaged ships and repair them back into action. It's the only anchor holding this battle together, and I couldn't be more thankful for it. Enemy elements closing on Zenus, sir. Fleet Mistress Akadindi, a stern Martian with rough features but striking red eyes, offers me a datapad to check. I don't. The Iron Damsel is the second-best admiral of Sol, and I won't disrespect her immaculate work by double-checking it. I might mess it up. Looks like they are going to attempt a planetary assault. Are those walking corpses mad? Those orbital defenses will mince them to bits. Gavilan is once more upon the middle bridge in full panoply, the roaring lion of House Lancaster shining bright on his chest, the dark figure covered in crimson and white that looks like the feverish machinations of Bram Stoker's worst nightmare stalks the bridge behind him. Thana is more than ready, her excitement like a blood-tinged star in the mantle. I just gave her the war she didn't even know she wanted. Well, the war both husband and wife wanted. Only Gavilan knew what he wanted, but he has known since he set eyes on Thana so many years ago. Their problem, not ours. I muse, getting up, my own panoply sinking to theirs. I turn back to Akadindi. How long before we are within haymaker range? 5 minutes to our destination, sir. She gestures toward the biggest monster in their fleet, almost 10 kilometers of void predator, spewing bioplasma like a punctured vein. I took the liberty of marking their largest ship for you. My thanks, Fleet Mistress Akadindi. I offer her the fleet's scepter, which allows her to command the fleet by mere thought. She accepts it with grace and glee. It's her astral duel to win now, and the woman does enjoy her job. The armada is yours. Safe travels, Lord Amaranth, she says, almost smiling, before turning to Cass. My dictator. Smile, Akadindi, my wife muses. If I die, you might get a shot at my chair. Never for a million worlds, my dictator. She hates political play as much as my wife does and doesn't have half the skills she has developed. She dreads having to take the Martian dictator's chair. She glances at me in a way that makes me gulp. Although I might take that shot with your husband instead. Sorry, Callie, he is off limits. My wife, in her limitless maturity and wisdom, slaps my armored ass with a metallic thud. I massage the bridge of my nose. Pity. Guess I'll have to make do with the politician one. For a moment, I elevate a prayer for my brother Adamus's safety. If Calliope Akadindi wants him, he isn't going to have much of a say in the matter.